Hello and welcome to the bowl preview episode of the domestic game. We are your hosts,
Joe Can.
and I'm Kelly Dwyer. So let's get down to it.
So, Division 2 first. I suppose we'll get a bit of admin in here. Saturday, July 8th at Dundalk Rugby Club, 2 p.m. It sees the Wexford Eagles, who are currently undefeated, against the Causeway Giants. Speaking to us here for the D2 Bowl preview, we have Fionn Malloy from the North Dublin Pirates. Fionn, how are things?
Really good, Joe. Yeah, pleasure to be on the show.
Great. So just give us a bit of a background. Obviously, talk about how you feel the Pirates season's gone so far. Obviously, on paper anyway, it seemed to go a bit better and a bit more smoothly than last year. So maybe you could give us a bit more insight, maybe how you came up against both these teams, and just kind of break down how your season went.
Yeah, I guess we'll probably start off with the slightly unusual D2 setup this year. Obviously, most people will know now that we've come to the end of the season. 4 teams in it, so all 4 teams made the bowl. It was an interesting dynamic. I think personally, from the Pirates' point of view, it was the right call for us, certainly this season, to be able to play in that kind of setup and get as much football in as possible. And the key for us was competitive football. We couldn't finish the season last season, so a major goal for the off the field targets of the team were certainly to be able to complete out all of the scheduled season that we had this year, and then we were going to have the bonus of that playoff game as well, which I guess depending on how you look at it, whether you had a great season like the Eagles did, or a season like ourselves where maybe the on-field football wasn't quite where we wanted to. It was an interesting dynamic. Never been a playoff game in the Pirates' history, and as I alluded to there, the season kind of, it didn't go as we would hope on the pitch. We only got 1 win. That was by forfeit when Trinity unfortunately folded. We've been in that position last year, so you never like to see that from any team, especially when it's a small division. But we played the Giants twice. There was a bit of a kerfuffle with the Eagles at the start of the season. We had to postpone that game until later on in the season because an ambulance didn't show up, and then once we went to try and rearrange that second game for the Eagles, we couldn't get it. We couldn't get a date agreed. It was supposed to fall right around Father's Day. We couldn't get a team Sunday. We couldn't get a team Saturday. They couldn't get a team Sunday. So in the end, I've only got insight in one of the games for the Eagles, and we've played the Giants 3 times now this season. For us, I think our best games of the season came against the Giants. We started off the season a little bit rocky against them. They scored on the kind of first couple of plays. And fair dues to them, they were very well drilled at the start of the season, and we kind of grew ourselves into that game. And then we faced them again later towards the end of the season, and that was a much more competitive game. There was only 1 point in it. I think it was 8-7, and we got a good score against them, and that was a really tight game. And then just there gone in the playoff game, really competitive game of football as well. I think by far the best game we played in all season, where both teams were able to move the ball. There was some good defensive stands and great offensive play. I think that's a credit as we look forward to the D2 Bowl. I think that's a real credit to Conan, the head coach there in the Giants. He really takes advantage of any kind of video that he has from the previous games. He has the guys very well drilled. They've got excellent numbers. They had excellent numbers when we played them through the season, and they seem to have grown it as well as the season goes on into the playoffs. They had really strong numbers for the playoffs. A lot of teams struggle to get that retention going once the long season and the kind of the bodies start to drop as the season progresses and injuries start to mount up, as you guys will know. So yeah, it was really interesting playing them. I definitely felt we were much better matched up. I think the story on the opposite side of this D2 Bowl is obviously the Eagles. Joe, as you mentioned on the intro, undefeated. They really have looked like the class of D2. Once again, a fantastic coach they have there in Joe Platt, come down from the Premier Division last season with the South Dublin Panthers, obviously having previously coached the Wexford Eagles before they kind of dipped in and have now come back again. So they're a super well drilled team. They played us really well. We were proud of how we stuck up given the difficulties we had during the season. We held up kind of 3 quarters, and they really got most of their points in the second quarter against us, but they did it very efficiently and very effectively. So we don't know whether some players got swapped in, but we were proud of our first quarter stance. It was a problem area that the Pirates had this year of especially on the defense, allowing early scores that put us down, that really put us in a hole. And it's hard to play good football when you're in a hole. So that was certainly something that impacted our season so far.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's great to see the Pirates back, and I think that it wasn't quite the same with Eiches last year. So credit to you for that. And I just exactly like you said, if those are your attainable goals, then you've achieved them. And I think that's really important for your first year. Kind of rebuilding the team is to pick attainable goals. So fair play to you and everybody. And I have to say the communications from the Pirates has really been on point this year. It's been very, very enjoyable. So credit to Ollie there in under centre doing fantastic work for the league. So yes, as you said, like this upcoming bowl, Giants and Eagles. So we have a little bit of insight from our AFI insider. So if I focus just on the Giants, his 3-word game, let's say, is Giants, one small step. And so what he means by that is that while they're certainly the underdogs in this one, which I think is fair to say they are the underdogs, let's say, their one small step could be considered a giant leap for all the future Causeway Giants. By reaching a bowl, not only do they gain valuable experience and raise the prestige of the club, but they could potentially get promoted off the back of this win or lose. And then, the other side then with the Eagles, promote, Eagles promote. That's the three words for this game. So following their relegation in 2022, and also, like, as you've alluded to, a delayed kind of comeback to the league. At one point, I think we were wondering if we were actually going to see them at all, just from all the forfeits and rescheduling that went on. But the Eagles, anyway, have rebounded emphatically, running wild all over the division with their patented triple option-esque offence. Can't look to 2024 just yet, as a sensible job is still required to win this bowl game. So, if you were to discuss the matchups between the Eagles and the Giants coming into this bowl, kind of who or what do you think is that we're going to see?
I think let's start on the Giants, and I do agree with them. I think it's the great opportunity for them. Winning football games is very important for retention, especially as the teams grow. It's something that the Pirates are aiming to do, and obviously, as you mentioned, the COVID year really, for whatever reason, hit our squad particularly hard, and we did need that tough year last year, and now, as I said, the attainable goal of just finishing out the season this year. So I think for the Giants, you hit the nail on the head. It is a giant leap for them, but it's one that they need to take. It will raise the prestige. On the pitch, I think what stands out to me for the Giants is they know what they do well. And that's really step one of being a good football team, is knowing where your strengths are and being able to apply them on the pitch. They do have a tricky offense. We faced them 3 times and it looked slightly different every time we faced them. So they've been working on that in the background. They know where their quality skill guys are. They have a heap of running backs, all of which are very good. And I think on the offensive side of things, the Giants will come in with a very clear game plan. As I said, Coach Yal there that they have does a very good job having the guys prepared and being very game aware and situationally aware within the game. They can go fast, they can go up tempo, and they can also take their time and really run it right down your throat if they need to, especially in the short yards. That's something the Pirates saw in the 2 regular season games. If they need to, they're very comfortable putting all the big boys in and really grinding those 1-2 yards, especially around the 3rd and short area and the 4th and short area. They're not afraid to go for those. So I think that's going to be hugely important, and that's important for controlling momentum. And momentum in bowl games, those one and done games, is hugely important. On the defensive side, they need to be very prepared. That's something they can be. They're certainly good at swarming the ball. But the Eagles, as we start to look at them, what they do very well is they always change the point of attack. It's very hard to know in advance of the snap where the Eagles are going to attack from. They use a lot of pre-snap motions. They use a lot of plays off those motions. Sometimes it's involved and sometimes it's not. So it's very hard to get a read on where exactly the ball is going to go at the start of their plays. And while the Giants have a very experienced defense with a lot of great athletes on it, I think that's going to be their huge challenge, is knowing the video and knowing the preparation. How much can they get right on the day to be able to stem this, particularly the running game of the Eagles, because they know how to find holes and they know how to go deep once they've done that. They have a lot of quick athletic guys. Focusing more on the Eagles, I think one thing that stood out to them that has or to us playing them this season that has really driven, I think it's fair to say, the blueprint for the Pirates for the next season, something that we're working on, is fitness. The guys are fast and they're fit and they're able to go the length of the field at any point during the game. They're very patient. As I said, when we played them, we were really proud of that defensive stand we put up against them in the first quarter. I believe we went up. I think it's the only time in the season at all that the Eagles have been down at any point. And then they really turned that screw in the second quarter, and they went for it then. And they put up, I think, 3-4 scores in that fourth quarter, and then we were able to gather ourselves back up and put the brakes on a little bit. So I think for them, it's going to be stay calm when we face them. And I'm not going to blow the trumpet of the Pirates by any means. I fully accept that we struggled on the pitch. But one thing we did do is we managed to generate an early turnover off the run game. And then we managed to generate an early turnover off the pass game as well. And so for the Eagles, the key is they have the ability, they have the players, and they have the offensive scheme. It's just about, in this big game, the ball game where you're a favourite, just stay calm, regain your composure like they did against us, and really push. And I think the same is fair to say for the Eagles defense as I did for the Giants defense. Is they're very well prepared, they're very fast, and they hit hard. And really, in a ball game, there's not much more you can ask from your defense, especially in this D2. We're still trying to bring in that game footage. We're getting much better this season, teams sharing footages, but as we go into this ball game, it's always hard to know. It's a one game, it's a prep for a single team. You're going to have all your best weapons that you possibly can available to you. So it's going to be very hard to know what's coming in advance. The Giants know what they're very good at. And so if you can figure out a way to stop the short game and contain the outside runs, I think that's where the key for the Eagles defense is going to be. But the Giants are more than capable of threatening in the air and on the ground.
I think that's fantastic insight. So thank you very much for that. And before we move on to Craig and start covering the D1 Bowl, can I push you then for a prediction? Like, who do you think is going to be lifting that D2 Cup?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to rock the boat too much. We played the guys. We have tremendous respect for the Giants. We played them in 3 great games this season. But I think it's hard to look past the Eagles. They had a fantastic season. They were the class of the field in the regular season. I think it would be unfair to go against them now in the ball game just for the sake of an upset. So I'm going to take the Eagles. I think they're going to have a little bit more experience, a little bit more canny. It's going to be a huge occasion for the Giants. So I'd probably take a 2-score margin for the Eagles in the D2 Bowl.
Covering the Division 1 Bowl, we have Craig Dooley from the Kildare Crusaders. Obviously, Kildare played both the D1 Bowl finalists twice this year. This year's final obviously is taking place between Louth Mavericks and the UL Vikings. This game will be at Garryowen Rugby Club in Limerick. It'll be kicking off at 2 o'clock on Sunday, July 9th. So, Craig, how's things?
All good. Been a long time since we've properly played a match together.
Yeah, has yeah. So just, I suppose, for the uninitiated, just give a bit of a background to yourself. Obviously you played Crusaders, we know this. Just what position you play and how you think your season's gone so far with the Crusaders.
I've been with the Crusaders since they started in 2017, but I started playing football back in 2014. Started with the South Kildare Soldier Youths. So far this season, I played every position except kicker and punter. It was a strange old season. The UL, they're a tough team now. The boys, like, especially when I was playing quarterback, their D line is just something else. Like, every play, it felt like I was getting hit by 8 lads. No joke.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. They're just such a well-drilled team. Like, anytime we played them over the last 2 years, they're just so well-drilled. They know exactly what they're doing. They're one of the only teams I've ever seen run a no-huddle offense. They just get straight up to the line, one word, and it's called. Like, I've been around a long time, and that takes some work to do that.
Yeah, it does, and the fitness as well really does have to be there. And we're actually seeing like a move like more so towards the no huddle. I think probably led more so by the Premier Division, because our bowl last year was entirely no huddle. But before we get anywhere near the Shamrock Bowl, let's focus in on this D1 bowl. So I have again from the AFI Insider just taken a moment about the Mavericks. Actually, before we move on to that, how have the Crusaders actually fared against the Mavericks, do you feel?
To be honest, the first match we played, it wasn't really the Crusaders. You know, it was what, 35-0 final score, 38-0 or something. But, you know, as we all said on the team, at the half, it was 7-0, or it was 7-0 going into the half, and then it just spiraled after that in the second half. The semi-final was more of a accurate representation of the skill of both teams there.
Yeah. And what do you think the difference was?
To be honest, we just had momentum. Like going into the final 3 or 4 games there, we went on a 4-game winning streak, and funnily enough, we actually had less players each match. You know, we started the season with about 25 players, 2-2, and then, you know, the 4 games we won, we ended up having 16, 17, 18 players, but it was just, you know, pure determination from the lads. They never gave up no matter what.
Yeah, quality, not quantity. That works, eh? So then to move on to our Mavericks and our Vikings matchup. So the three-word game to describe this game. So Mavericks, top fun, Mavericks. A storybook season may yet have a fairy tale ending. Deserve all the plaudits coming their way, regardless of bowl result. They put the fun in functional. And then Vikings, we have purple people eaters. The Vikings are allowing 6.25 points per game. No, this is not a typo, by the way. Less than a score per game. That's what they allow. They looked the part up until the third quarter of the AFI 1 Bowl in 2022. This year, they are the part. As lovely a story as the Mavs are, these Vikings are more than ready to finish their own story and reach the Premier Division. So what are your thoughts on this upcoming matchup between the Vikings and the Mavericks? Who and where do you think is going to shine during this game?
The Vikings O-line, they're going to be the big determinant. Like they're just going to control the whole thing. Just having Finn run behind them, they're not going to be stopped, I'd say. If they're all on point, game over.
Yep.
You see it going anyway similar to the first game between them. Obviously, they played last month, and that was fairly low scoring. But I think, was there a weather delay in that one or something? Or because it was very low scoring. Going into that game, especially myself, I'd have thought, you know, the likes of, say, Nathan Harty and Finn obviously would have been putting up scores left, right, and centre. But obviously, I think we saw the defenses for both those teams shine through, and then obviously yourselves then in the playoff game with the Mavericks, that was a very tight game as well, very low scoring. Do you see that kind of going the same way there this Sunday, or do you maybe see those two young QBs maybe shining a bit more in a high pressure situation?
It'll definitely be a shootout, I'd say. You know, both defenses have been amazing this season for the lads, but I think it's time for the two QBs to shine. As they've proved all season long, they can do it.
And I suppose then, if we had to maybe push you for a result, obviously with how much you've been playing these two teams in the past, obviously you've only played the Vikings once, but with how that game went, you might feel one way or the other about the Vikings. Obviously, you've a lot of games with the Mavericks over the years. I suppose, who would you like to see go through first? And then who would be your pick for the Division 1 champions?
I'd like to see the Vikings win. I've always had great time for the lads. You know, made some good friends over the years, especially on the under-20s Ireland team. And I honestly think they'll pull through. The Mavs won't stand a chance, I'd say. Bold statement.
Bold statement.
Yeah.
Not a chance. Could we push you for a score prediction then, if you're going to be that bold about it?
Ooh. I'm going to say 42-14 Vikings. Going big.
He's taking the over anyway. Craig, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate the insight. Obviously, as a player that's come up through the ranks yourself, you know there's a good bit of experience there. So we do appreciate you coming on and giving you a bit of insight there.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.